to adjournment. Council will be going to executive session. I will read the executive session items at this point in time. Item 2A, City Council shall convene in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding the Colorado Bend Development Agreement with Bastrop, Colorado Bend LLC and Public Improvement Plan. Item 2B, City Council shall convene in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.087 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding possible approval of economic development incentives for the Pearl River project as requested by Pearl River DBA Sendero for $5.9 million plus $485,000 in rollback taxes. Item 2C, City Council shall convene in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding proposed development agreement with West Bastrop Land LLC for the Ironwood Development Project. Item 2D, City Council shall convene in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.072 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding the potential procurement of certain interest in real property for parkland purposes. Item 2E, City Council shall convene in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.072 to seek the advice of legal counsel and discuss professional engineering contract matters, KSA Engineering, Inc., and potential acquisitions of real estate related to the wastewater treatment plant number 3 project and other matters. Item 2F, City Council shall convene in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.072, to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding a potential agreement between CoreX and SpaceX related to real property. Item 2G, City Council shall convene in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding Chapter 8 of the Bastrop Building Block Code as applies to off-premises billboard signs. It is 5:33. Council is in executive session. It's 6:30. Council has returned from executive session. We are now in regular session. We will move to agenda item number 3, any necessary appropriate action posted for consideration in closed executive session. Under item 2A, there will be no action. Under item 2B, I believe we have a motion.
Yeah, I move to direct the city manager and the city attorney to prepare documentation providing an incentive package consistent with the plan proposed tonight and bring it back to council for approval.
I have a motion from Councilmember Plunkett. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Crouch. Any further discussion? Seeing none indicated, Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. We will move to item 2C, which will be no action. 2D, no action. We will move on to item 2F, and I believe we have a motion. Councilmember Crouch.
I move to authorize the city manager to prepare the documentation for financing of the infrastructure extension as directed in executive session and bring back to council for approval.
I have a motion from Councilmember Crouch. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Lee. Any further discussion? Seeing none indicated, Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion passes unanimously. We are very pleased tonight to have a group of outstanding young individuals who will be leading us in the pledge. Will Emily Clark, John Clark, Georgia Bankston, and Rebecca Bankston come to the front, please? Okay, I read, how many names did I read? Did I read 4 or 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, make sure my count was right. If y'all will all stand, these individuals are going to lead us in the pledge to the 2 flags.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
Thank you. Can we give these young folks a round of applause? Y'all need to come back and get picture and look pretty for the picture. You don't get away that easy.
Give me 1, 2, 3.
Before we remain standing, we'll have our invocation by Keetrick Steger, one of our police chaplains.
Father, we thank you for your grace and your mercy that exist among us today. And because of you, Lord, we could stand with confidence, grace, and deep love in our heart, knowing that you are the author and the finisher of all that we seek to perform. Lord, we thank you, Lord, that the old things are passed away and all things are new. And so as we begin this year walking forward for the new things, may we not be hindered by the things that we felt like we didn't accomplish, but may we be driven by your love and your grace that tell us that we can accomplish all things through you. We bless this city and all that are here and all the leaders that are here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Y'all may be seated. Mr. Steger will be back up here later on to make a presentation, so get used to him. We're going to move. Not yet, in a little bit. Sorry. But that was good practice. You betcha. We'll move on to I have a real quick mayor's report. I want to recognize, and Chief Stefanik, if you're back there, if you'll stand. Today is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and I want to express our appreciation to our police chief and her staff. Just come on up here. Come on, so people can recognize her. Our chief does an outstanding job. She's a wealth of information as well as a great inspiration to young folks. You keep going out into the community, you keep hearing nice things about the chief, and she's putting together a very, very nice department. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And so do all the members of our department. Thank you.
We appreciate you. That was unplanned and unrehearsed. We also, candidate packets for our upcoming election in May are available at the city secretary's office. We won't be able to file on those until the 17th of this month. If you have any questions relative to our election, please call Ms. Franklin, our city secretary. She is a wealth of information in that regard. That is it. Do any of our city council members have a report they'd like to give?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Happy New Year, Bastrop. Welcome back to City Council. I wanted to take a moment to thank all of the organizations that hosted some form of a holiday event this season. Bastrop was very festive and busy all through, from Thanksgiving through December, actually. So it was a lot of fun. I made it to quite a bit of the events, and I think everyone just did a wonderful job, including I wanted to make sure Kathy Danielson got a good shout out for the last Farm Street Opry of the year. I did host, Santa Claus showed up, very active crowd, lots of good music that evening, and looking forward to the Mardi Gras on Farm Street Opry coming up. So thank you, Kathy, for inviting me to host that. I wanted to also thank the staff, the city manager, and the mayor for our Region 10 meeting. I keep telling everybody, hands down, I think it was the best. I'm not being partial because it was in Bastrop at the Opera House, but it was the best meeting I think I've been to since I've been on the dais. So very good job there. Lots of council members are still talking about that. And then I wanted to congratulate the Bastrop Opera House for winning 13 of the 20 Broadway Regional Awards out of Austin. They were selected to include nominations over 100 cities. They won 13 of the 20 awards. So they had an amazing season, and they are already geared up for this season. Freaky Friday is starting next week, I believe. So a lot of good shows coming for that. So just lots of good things happening in Bastrop. Always want to give a shout out to the library board that I serve as a liaison, and the good job, wonderful job they did with the open house. 822 people visited the library during the open house. So great job as always, the library. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lee. We appreciate it so much. Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Southside Market because they donated turkeys for all of the employees of the city for Christmas. So I just want to give a big shout out and say thank you to them. And I want to thank all y'all for being here tonight and participating in government. It's really important the community speaks up, so thank you for being here.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we move on, we have an event that we need to recognize. Our Mayor Pro Tem recently celebrated a birthday, and we want to present you this card. I'm not sure if the check. I'm not sure if the check made it in there, but happy birthday, sir. All righty. I'm going to ask Doc Jackson to step up to the podium because I want to read a proclamation. If you would, sir. Sure. I'm glad I saw you in the crowd.
Well, glad to be here.
Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King challenged our nation to recognize that our individual liberty relies on common equality, and whereas at a time when our nation was sharply divided, Dr. King called on a generation of Americans to be voices of reason, sanity, and understanding amid the voices of violence, hatred, and emotion. And whereas Dr. King devoted his life to the struggle for justice and equality, sowing seeds of hope for a day when all people might claim the riches of freedom and the security of justice. And whereas the Martin Luther King Jr. federal holiday, we commemorate the 38th anniversary of the holiday, recognizing one of America's greatest visionary leaders, and we celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King. And whereas Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech turns 61 this year and reminds us to recognize that in these challenging times, too many Americans face limited opportunities, but our capacity to support each other remains limitless. Whereas we must face the challenge with the same strength, persistence, and determination exhibited by Dr. King, and whereas the walk's theme this year is a day on, not a day off, and whereas the American people are called to engage in public service and promote nonviolent social change so that Dr. King's unfinished movement toward equality can be achieved by our united, enduring efforts. And whereas the city of Bastrop, all citizens are urged to join the Bastrop High School, Smithfield High School, Elgin High School, McDade High School, Cedar Creek High School, and the Colorado River Collegiate Academy in supporting the scholarship program during the annual walk. And whereas all citizens are also urged to join the 35th annual walk on January 15, 2024 at 10 a.m. beginning at MLK Park, located in Smithfield, Texas, for universal peace, justice, human rights, and social and economic progress for all people. Now, therefore, I, Lyle Nelson, Mayor of the City of Bastrop, do hereby proclaim Monday, January 15th, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Mr. Jackson, I'm going to be presenting this to you, so you stay right there. Appreciate you so much in the efforts that you've done in this regard.
Thank you. And I just, if I may say a couple of words? Well, I just want to thank you all for the proclamation and hope to see all of you as well as those in the audience at the walk on Monday. It is the 35th anniversary, and I'm very proud and very happy to have seen it all 35 of the years that we put this together, and I hope that we can do it for 35 more. So thank you so much for your presentation, for the proclamation, and hope to see you all there.
Let us look pretty and take a picture.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
You've become coordinated here. So.
You should be good.
All right.
We will also have this proclamation at the Walk in Smithfield next Monday. I hope to see a lot of people out there. Now for the much anticipated and pre-rehearsed presentation of Mr. Keetrick Seger from the Bastrop County Sheriff's Office for Human Traffic Awareness Month. It's your turn.
Colin, will you bring that presentation up? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to be here and to just to represent this month as Human Traffic Awareness Month. And my name is Digger. I'm the Chief Mission Officer and the Chaplain at the Refuge for DMST. DMST stands for Domestic Minor Sex Trafficking. And one of the questions that people often ask me is that, are you guys in place where you are because of situations on the border or things of that nature? And the answer is no. We've come to find out when studies that these are our children that we are involved of rescuing out of one of the most heinous crimes that is growing in the earth today. Many of you will hear call it modern day slavery. It is just that bad. One of the things, statistics that we'll see out there in the state of Texas is approximately 79,000 minors and youth are victims of sex trafficking in the state of Texas. And this study came back in probably about 2016, so it's grown exponentially since then. Approximately 234,000 are victims of labor trafficking. So the slavery, it has no boundaries, whether it's in labor or it's in commercial sex trafficking as well. 1 in 3, 31% minors has reported that they have had online sexual encounters. 29 million reports of suspected child sexual exploitation a year are reported. That's about 563,461 reports a week of children that are being affected by this heinous crime. 27% of children involved in sex trafficking, a lot of that comes from people that they know. It's, you have stranger danger in the snatch and grab, but most often it's by someone that's familiar to them, how they find themselves in this dark situations. Here at the Refuge, one of the things that we do, we're not involved in rescuing the young ladies. We serve young ladies from the age of 14 to 19. We don't rescue them, but we provide a place for them to receive the healing that is often needed after they've been rescued. Our motto is there's no rescue without restoration. And so our desire is for every young lady that comes out of that to find a home and be integrated back into life with the trauma, but them have a place to work on that trauma that they experienced during that time. So at the Refuge, we believe that long-term care is very important. We have here is that young victims who only receive low level of limited short-term assistance of services are more likely to return be victimized up to about 34% rate, which compares to about a 5 to 7% rate for those who have long-term care. Let's see the next slide. One of the things that we do at the Refuge, we provide the survivors with what we call the circle of care. And within the circle of care, they're able to come and receive school. You can see on the next slide, we can begin to share with you. They receive medical. Oftentimes, these young ladies, when they are recovered or they are integrated into our family there at the Refuge, their health is not in the best conditions. A matter of fact, their traffickers are not concerned about their health. Their traffickers, or more importantly, how can I sell her one more time before and make another profit? You know, the traffickers, they have found out that I could sell a drug once, I could sell a gun once, but I could sell this young lady, this minor, this child, our babies, I could sell her 10 or 15 times a day and still gain a profit. And so when they come to us, a lot of times they're malnourished, they have things going on in their bodies, they have things going on in their minds, and it really requires an opportunity for them to feel like someone really cares about them more than what they can offer them. And so health is a very vital thing. They come, they get their blood work done there, they get the nourishment that they need. One of the things that is kind of sad but interesting, because they've not had consistent nourishment, their weight is oftentimes low. And so when they come and find themselves in a consistent, healthy environment, they do start putting on weight and things. So we have to monitor that through nutrition. But one of the things we also find out is that they start developing aches and pains in their body that they didn't have before. And they're asking is, am I okay? What's wrong with me? My joints hurt, my head is hurting, because they've gotten to a place where they can relax and they can find peace, and their body is awakening again because they found a place where they can relax. And so we have a medical facility. We have a treatment clinic there for them to come. The doctor for the ladies will come and have appointments with them. They're on campus as well. We have a 50-acre campus that has a cottage setting for the young ladies to come, and each young lady, she has her own bedroom, she has her own bathroom. She don't have to share. When she comes from a facility, whether it's detention center, if she doesn't have clothes, we have a boutique there, so she can go and she can get clothing for herself. They're all new. There are companies who have donated brand new clothes for them, so when they come, we don't have to give them anything used because they've been used one too many times already. So we try to give them a well-rounded medical experience. The psychological piece, we work through their trauma. Trust is one of the biggest issues that they have to work through. My wife and I, we are the chaplains, and she's the chief care and culture officer there. But we try to provide them a wholesome family environment so they can start trusting and gaining trust again. We have therapy sessions. We have equine therapy available, art therapy as well, and different things with recreation to help them to gain some form of a normal teenage life. Next slide, please. We also provide them with a spiritual care, because as these young ladies have gone through one of the most horrendous crimes that this world has ever seen, their spirits, their heart is shattered, it's broken in so many ways. And you guys are probably, you know the nursery rhyme, Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall and no one could put them back together again. And it's really true with these young ladies' heart. Unless we connect them back to the Creator who created them, their little hearts will remain fractured and wondering, why did this God that they said it loved me so much allow this happen to me? So we try to introduce them back to a healthy, well-rounded relationship with the Lord that they develop on themselves. Next one. And we also have an education. I didn't update this slide, but the UT Charter School had a charter school there with us, but now we have Trinity Charter School. These young ladies, they come in from a lifestyle of slavery, and oftentimes education is not on their high agenda, nor their traffickers. And so many of them come in and they don't know where they are education-wise. So what Trinity would do, they would go out, they will find out where they are with their credits and put together an educational path for them individually. And so we've had at least 11 young ladies to graduate from high school after coming in from this lifestyle. One of the best graduation speeches that I've heard was a young lady stood on our campus during graduation. She said, when I came here, I was a prostitute, but when I'm leaving as a graduate. And that has given her an opportunity to enter into life with value and with an opportunity to do something different. The social and relational aspect, to build positive peer and adult relationships, to help them to develop communication skills. A lot of times our young ladies, they come to us and they have learned survival skills. They have learned street, and I can tell you right now, I don't care how long I've been in the ministry, but they don't need me for as they're concerned. They've survived on the streets longer than I can even wish to think that I would want to be there. And so they have thoughts and ideas that this is what it takes to survive. And oftentimes those ideas are not healthy. So we help them to learn how to communicate with their peers, and that everyone that they interact with is not out to destroy them, but actually there are people in this world that want to help them to develop healthy conflict resolution skills that let them know that just because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean that they don't love you, but really it's helping you to understand people as well. But then we have an independent living program as well. Once the young ladies get to a place where they are moving past their treatment there and they're getting to a healthy place, we have cottage there where they can move into and they can start developing skill sets, filling out applications, meal prep, things where they can begin to see life in a different way as an adult and becoming integrated back into our society once again. And community connections, I do want to encourage all of our community leaders here to think about these young ladies coming out of this work environment. And when they come to a place where they are whole in their mind and in their hearts, that they need a place to work, they need a family, they need a community, they need churches, they need involvement in a community that is healthy and that will help them see life and adults as someone that will benefit their lives and not injure them again. I want to thank you guys so much for allowing us to be here, allowing us to help bring awareness to this crime that is entered into the earth. This is a month that we celebrate this, or not celebrate it, but bring awareness to it, human traffic awareness. But it's one of those things that as we, as individuals in our community, turn the lights on in our community and don't allow this evil and this darkness to have a place to hide, because it's here among us. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Counsel, do you have any questions for Mr. Steger?
Keetrick, you wanted a particular day to have lights on for that reason. What day is that?
Well, my thought, because January is the Human Traffic Awareness Month, my thought was the entire month. And the thought was, I know, electric bill, I understand. But my thought behind this is because it is happening in our community, and oftentimes we don't see it and we don't know it. I've had people say, well, you know, I don't see it. It's not happening in front of us because it's happening in the dark. But as leaders and as pastors and as council members and as mayors, all of us, if we could, in representation, turn our porch lights on saying that this evil will not have a place to hide in our community. This evil will not have a place to hide in our malls with our young ladies being befriended by someone who only have one thing in mind. So my heart was the month of January, but if you could pick a week, maybe the second week of January, if that works for you, it's fine. But let it be known that this is why I'm doing it. Speak to your coworkers, speak to your church members, because it's happening. It's not just in the streets. It's in our churches. It's happening in our churches. It's happening in the business world. It's happening in the fire department, police departments. It's everywhere. Any other questions?
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Mr. Steger.
Wait, don't walk away.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I have a couple of questions for you. So can you tell the community where you're located, how many girls you can support at once, and then how can someone reach out to you if they're in need of services?
Okay. Let's start with the first question. Generally, we don't give the physical location. I mean, if someone is coming out, if you get ready to come out, we will present you with that, but we don't publicize where we're located because these young ladies, there are bad guys that are out there. We have experienced protesters and bad guys showing up at our gate. So we don't give out the physical location right now unless you're coming with an appointment.
How many girls at one time can you host, and then how can someone reach out to you if they're in need of help?
We are currently licensed to serve 24 young ladies. We physically have beds that will hold up to 40, but we're licensed for 24. If you want to get in touch with us to volunteer, to know more about us, you can go to our website, the Refuge for DMST.org. You can find us there. You can find a lot about us, how to volunteer, how to support, maybe some of our history as well. But we would love to give a tour. Some of you here have been on a tour out at the Refuge, and we would, if you're interested, please contact us, and we would love to give you an opportunity to see where the state of Texas has built a facility to serve our children who's been abused.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I just recently, like probably last week, watched Sound of Freedom, an amazing movie that I think has done the best job I've seen highlighting this issue. So everything you're saying was resonating with me with that movie. But a couple of questions. Lighting, is there particular lights, like a lot of awareness months have a specific light, purple, pink, green, or you just want light?
No, ma'am, not in particular. Our heart was just to turn the light on. Give don't give evil a place to hide. And it's brighter the better, for as I'm concerned. And we could, and I will also say we could do that physically or metaphorically. I think I'm saying that right. But sometimes it's just turning the light on in the minds and the eyes of people that I work with. Because a lot of people still don't know that this is
A real thing.
a real thing.
Yeah.
And
Have you given this presentation to the county by any chance during Commissioner's Court?
no,
Or
ma'am.
approach the county? That's
No, ma'am.
something you might want to consider. I don't know if you're working with Bastrop County Care is another option. And then my last question was, how do they typically come to you? Do they come to you by way of being freed, run away, law enforcement? How do they typically come to the refuge?
There's different avenues. Their parents, obviously, once their child has been rescued from this, CPS, different state agencies, law enforcement, FBI, Homeland Security has reached out to us before. Judges, lots of judges reach out to us, and sometimes court order, but sometimes it's as well.
And do you offer, so you say you can, you're licensed to house 24. So
Yes,
if
ma'am.
there's overflow, where's the nearest refuge that these girls can go that you might forward them to or provide
Right.
assistance?
There's a place near Houston that we partner with there as well. There's another place in Waco, I believe it's called Unbound. It's not as large as ours, so it's a different program, but these are just places that serve either as advocates or sometimes also residential areas as well. There are some emergency places in San Antonio that if we get a call in the night, say, hey, this young lady is been rescued out of a situation, what do you do? So there's a place out of San Antonio that we normally refer them to there as
Right.
well.
That's great information. Thank you again for the
Yes, ma'am.
presentation.
Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation and opening our eyes, because we always need attention to be shown that things. And so thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
that to us tonight. And I know that to do good work, it takes money.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we go to your site, we can donate,
Yes, ma'am.
correct? So everyone listening and everyone here, they're all our kids, and we're responsible for that. So thank you so much for your help.
Yes, ma'am. The refuge for DMST.org. Yes, ma'am.
We've had occasion to be able to visit on a couple of times. I really appreciate your care, concern, and passion you bring to your mission. So thank you very much for bringing this to us tonight.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate
you.
it. God bless you guys.
We won't call you up again.
Well, feel free. I'm available. All right.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 8, work sessions and briefings. We have none. We will then move to item number 9, staff and board reports. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and the public. I will try to make this super brief. I'm calling 2023 the year of service in Bastrop. It was a whirlwind year with a lot of changes and a lot of things happening. And I'm going to focus on some root things that we did that are bearing fruit for not just 2023, but 2024 and beyond. Obviously, what we did, the agenda items are in the hundreds, and they're not all represented here. But it is a very hardworking staff, and it is a team of individuals who, without them as your public servants, none of this could be possible. And the dedication of the council at the dais, staying late, reading your materials, and making the hard decisions. So the first root of the tree is collaboration. So there is a quote by Henry Ford that says, if everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. And I joked that in my first year, I was on the apology tour. I had a lot of things to apologize for, and most of that was really not apologizing for anything, but not listening and not being receptive. It takes a team of people to put a community together. The school can't function if houses aren't coming, jobs aren't coming, business can't function if all of those, the cogs in the wheel need to work together. And we were working very much in isolation. And so we've begun to take some of those walls down. So what did we do? We have watered and nurtured our relationships with BISD, with the Economic Development Corporation, with Bastrop County, with the Chamber of Commerce, with our residents and our organizations who, without them, a lot of the work that we do cannot be done on the day-to-day basis. We have a number of support organizations who receive funding, but there are so many support organizations who don't, and they still provide support and give to the resilience of the community. And so for collaboration, we have some high-level things that we did. We worked with BISD to get their platting agreement so that their projects could move forward quickly. We will be breaking ground on a number of, cutting ribbon on a number of schools this coming week. None of that was possible prior because the property on several of the schools is not platted. And the way the code reads, if you're not platted, you don't get a building permit. And so it's a long entanglement process. And so it really took council action to make that happen. So we brought that forward, that moved along, it went very well. We were invited to their bond discussion, which allowed us to give early assistance where we saw issues with their development projects so that they weren't held up toward the very end. Time is money, and it's just not money to the resident, it's the ultimate taxpayer within BISD. So with the county, we updated and completed the 1445 agreement that regards development regulations. The county has a seat at our table. The county now has a seat within our software process, and they are able to review and comment on all of the developments moving forward. That is improved coordination and development. In terms of shared resources as well, we were using a program now called Blue Beam that allows cross collaboration. Everybody can see what everybody is putting in, so we're tearing down those silos more and more. We held our first ever joint leadership meeting with the school, the county, the chamber, the city, and EDC to finally put up a map and show everything that's coming toward us and why it's important. It was important for the school to understand what's coming toward us because they can plan demographics and they can plan their school sites and they can plan to acquire property. And as we work with development and we need a park or we need land or we need drainage, it's important that we all work together because if we're not, we miss the boats. And what we have on the ground right now shows you how many boats we missed. We have improved alignment with the Economic Development Corporation and the council goals. There was a lot of infighting when I came on board. The EDC now does not resemble what it did when I first came on board, and we're in a metamorphosis for that, reconfiguring and reassessing where we're going to be. That mostly looks like small business development, and it looks like support of our business community and some incentive packages, but the development is coming, so the need to incentivize it is not as great. Putting that money back into the community creates its own economic engine. So we'll move to infrastructure and development. That's the unsexy part of what we do. You don't see it, right? You don't see it and you don't complain about it till you can't flush your toilet, till the water's brown, till you're flooding or the streets look like the lunar eclipse of Mars. But our development code is very complicated and it's difficult to get through. We have a fairly recent code that was missing a lot of the simple processes on how to get through it. So we took a lot of that back to basics and really truly make it fair to all. I had a question about, shouldn't you be treating everybody the same? No, I shouldn't treat the resident who just needs a simple water permit the same way I'm going to treat Target or Walmart. It is a much different, and so we are addressing those things. People who aren't computer literate should be able to come in and talk to the city without needing to get on a computer, and we should be able to translate at least into Spanish since a vast majority of our resident population is Spanish speaking. So in that regard, what did we do? Well, we met with the customers. That was step one, right? How do you solve a problem if you don't really know what the problem is you're trying to solve? I had a lot of noise when I came on board, and I said, well, it could be the code and it could be process, but I got to figure it out. And so I spent 4 very, very terrifying meetings where, folks let me have it. And all I could say is, I understand and we're going to address it. I understand and we're going to address it. I brought in Intelligent Consulting, Georgia Remus, who I've worked with over the last 20 years, who helped facilitate some of that, and we came across a path forward. That led us to some immediate code amendments that gave relief. For a person who wanted to get a fence permit, you didn't need to go get a survey, you didn't need to go get a drainage plan, and all of the things we were requiring for just a basic fence permit that would lead a resident down a code enforcement path. That's not good governance. That's not transparent governance either, because I don't believe anybody on the council knew that that's what was going to happen under this code. And then we're going through a comprehensive review of all of our master plans. Development is coming at us so fast that most of our master plans, although they're a year old, are already outdated. Just trying to keep up with the workload and making good decisions, and then going through a code rewrite. We had a code rodeo a few months ago. We will have another one January 27th, and that talks about the development code and how we want Bastrop to look in the future. And what does that look mean? I heard a lot about authentic Bastrop. Nobody has told me what authentic Bastrop is to this point, but I know it certainly isn't, 25 houses in a very small footprint without a park nearby. I know that, but that's some of the things that are able to be done in this particular code. So we're working on that. So the next part to that was really, it was a massive staff change. We had almost a complete staff change in the Development Services Department, and we had staff changes across the organization. The Development Services staff probably was left with 2 original people, and everybody else sort of moved out. And that was after I asked some very critical questions about what are we here for? And we are here for the residents. That is the bottom line. And so it's a culture of service, and it's a culture of understanding why we're here. And so the new staff that is on board fully understands that. We have taken away all third-party contracts as it relates to review and inspection. We saved $250,000 in the first 6 months and are on pace to save $750,000 and have improved a better turnover. I can get to you. If you have a question about your water heater, you have a question about your plumbing, you can call Skip, you can call Doc, you can call somebody down, and we will answer the phone. And guess what? We'll answer it in Spanish too. And we'll go visit with you, and we'll go show you what you need to do, and we won't give you a red tag, and you won't not be able to reach us, and you won't not be able to call us. So those are super fundamental, super easy things that our residents were asking for, as opposed to, I need to get a water heater change out, the plumber won't even come because I can't get an inspector to come. And so we simplified the permit process completely. You don't even need to come into City Hall to get a permit. You can do it online. If you want to come into City Hall to see us, great, but you don't need to. It's an automated process, and we took about 1/3 of the workload off from staff and 1/3 of the heartache off of the residents on simplifying those simple processes. And we gave folks tools for success. We shared one Adobe license. We shared one GIS license across the department. You cannot do your work. You cannot expect your staff to do good work without giving them the tools to succeed. Some of that is just fundamental management that we took care of. And so what does that move us into? That the next route is quality of life, right? That's the fun part, the one that everybody likes. But you can't get to a quality of life without some of those basic fundamentals. So in that regard, the council, we completed the code revision, simplifying the permits that I talked about. We accepted a park and rec master plan. We are focused right now on a park and facility inventory because, as I continue to say, it's very hard for me to ask the residents for additional money if I can't even tell you what I have on the ground. And I'm embarrassed to say we're working toward that. But in 2024, I cannot tell you what I have on the ground. We're working toward it. We've approved the Old Iron Bridge repair. We've incorporated parks and trees into the development process. So if you're going to chop down a tree, you're going to have to pay for it or replace it. If you're going to create a neighborhood that requires a park or a park within walking distance, you must give land, and it cannot be swampland. You must give land or you must give $1 to create those parks. We've added shade structures to several parks. We've completed the Mayfest Park assessment and a plan of action. Dirt was a big thing. My own husband went and looked for dirt. There was dirt. There was a dirt discussion. Apparently there was a selection of dirt recently. That is a good thing because that was of monumental concern to folks who have expensive horses. Staff held 15 events on Main Street, 203 events at the convention center, and 18 events at city parks. That's just in 12 months, January to December. The amount of staff and organization that takes, from police to fire to convention center staff to public works staff, everybody along the continuum is astronomical, and the staff really deserves a kudos. And so what did those routes and feeding yield? Well, our collaborative fruits yielded that the voters did approve a street maintenance tax to repair streets. They trusted us enough to reduce the Economic Development Corporation sales tax and to put 2/3 of it, or 3/4 of it, to streets. So that means we will have $3.3 million every year, plus the $800,000 that council had allocated toward maintenance of streets. That's repairing Water Street, that's repairing Farm Street, that's repairing Linden Street, that's repairing all of the streets within the city proper that have gone far too long without attention. We have improved communication and sharing of information with the county and BISD. I meet with them twice a month. We go through development plans, we go through development regulations. I'm coordinating with the school district, locating school sites, helping their demographer get population estimates right so that when they build the school, it's not overflowing already. We have GIS mapping and master plan coordination with the county. That's a new feature for the city of Bastrop. We did not have a robust GIS plan, and for folks in the audience, GIS stands for Geospatial Information Systems. It's me being able to take a 50,000-foot look at the city and plan it appropriately. We didn't share that information before. We're sharing that information now. The county's transportation master plan was the first time we were able to overlay that information. And we've introduced some events like Halloween, and here's soon to be Mardi Gras that we'll talk about. Those events cannot happen in isolation. And so Halloween was a perfect example of how we reached out to all of our nonprofit friends and said, you have a seat at the table. Have a tent, have at it. We will help you with the permit. It's free, just do it, just come represent. City staff is limited on what we can do. And so some of these events also act as fundraisers for those nonprofits. And we've streamlined the special event permit process so it's not so painful. And then the Sit with Sil events that I host every month. We took a small hiatus for the holidays. They are well attended. I do those in the morning, I do those in the afternoon, alternating months, and there's no question that's off topic. And those have been very well attended and continue to be well attended. So my next one is January 18th, I believe.
27th.
January 27th? No.
Oh, it's Cold Rodeo, I'm sorry, 18th.
No, it's January 18th. It's January 18th, and it's here at City Hall. So our infrastructure development fruits, this has been a lot. We have eased the restriction for residential permits, and that's led us to issue almost 2,000 permits this year. And again, we've reduced those third-party costs. We've shortened the development process by allowing concurrent review of submittals. We have early assistance meetings. Right now, we have about 6,000 residential units on deck in some way, shape, or fashion. There are 5 hotel sites specifically planned, with 2 more on the vine. You just heard the council approve Pearl River. They approved Burleson East a few months ago. That is a development that you've all seen, the Chewy's, and you've all seen the Texas Roadhouse restaurants that have been released. Those are all along 71. Rooftops breed retail, and so those will come as those 6,000 units are on deck. The COREX agreement to serve SpaceX, you just heard the council approve that also. That will bring a wastewater line down to 969 into the city's wastewater treatment plant. That is important for 2 reasons. One, it helps to pay for the wastewater treatment plant and keep the rates down for the ratepayers, the residents. But 2, it keeps the dumping in the Colorado from happening. So it protects important waterways. It was important for us to look at wastewater from a regional perspective. We could have turned a blind eye. It's up. We would have never served it. But we're downstream to that. I don't want to be kayaking and getting in that water knowing what's there on a hot summer day. And we just inked a joint interlocal agreement with Commissioner Hamner in Precinct 1. We are going to partner with the county and Water Control District to do the street repairs in that district, which is Tahitian. We have about 8 streets within Tahitian that's part of the interlocal that we will get to work on quickly. We plan to have an interlocal with Commissioner Beckett and her precinct that would do Piney Ridge, Hoffman, and Laura off into that direction. And then the county, the city itself, we have about 15 streets in our maintenance program that will happen with a new product called HA5 beginning next month. Quality of life. So the Parks and Rec Master Plan is under review for prioritization. It is on the agenda for the Parks Board every single month as they look through what's important in that plan and how can we prioritize it and make sure that we stay on task and we stay on target. Mayfest Park is under review for further development. The council did allocate some dollars for repair at Mayfest Park, and so we are looking toward some of those repairs and other necessary repairs along the park system. One of our parks is losing land to erosion. We're going to have to put a gabion wall or do some soil stabilization. So there are things that we're doing in the park system. The BEDC property at the industrial park is being discussed as a major regional park with a recreation center. There's about 80 available acres in that park, and some of it is not buildable because of the terrain, but it would make a wonderful hike and bike trail in that area. But in the Park and Rec Master Plan, the regional park that was described included softball, soccer, a natatorium, and a recreation center. And they said we needed about 40 acres. So economic development has recognized that a regional facility like that can drive and will drive people here. It'll pay into the hot tax, it'll pay into sales tax, and so it becomes its own economic generator. Industries such as Accutronics and TA Adhesives are due to bring over 100 jobs, paying more than $50,000 annually. One of the BEDC goals was to make sure we set a baseline. If you want an incentive and you want to come to Bastrop, there better be a good reason why you can't pay a living wage to allow people to live in Bastrop. And we brought the Community Impact newspaper. So I want to focus on a few departments, the library being one of them. That is a wonderful community asset that often gets overlooked. Bonnie does her job so well. Is Bonnie in the audience? Bonnie. Bonnie does her job so well that you don't hear from Bonnie very often. We hear from Bonnie when things went real bad, but that's not often. So the library eliminated late fees for all materials except electronic devices. That didn't put a bump in revenue for her. We haven't seen an increase in people not turning in their books. They partnered with over 29 organizations and individuals to provide programs, displays, and outreach opportunities. The Bastrop County African American Cultural Center, Eden East, the Family Crisis Center, to name a few. And importantly, they began digitizing newspaper articles, photos, and other historical documents. These are the things that carve our history out and talk about who we are as a community and is preserved. And our police department, since today is National
Law Enforcement Appreciation.
Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. We're going to focus on the police too. Vicki has worked really hard to improve transparency by posting those stats on the website. Many cities don't like to do that because you get those folks that go, oh, don't go to Bastrop, there's X many murders or X many. Vicki has been Chief Stefanik has been very, very good and open about putting those transparencies out there. And she's worked with internal staff to streamline the process for special events and other street closures. We know that's a problem for businesses when we've got to close the street and what that does to traffic. So she's been awesome to work with. It is very hard to keep a police officer these days, right? You can imagine in the environment that they have to work in. So she's been creative and is working through what she calls recruitment through development and working at recruiting cadets and then training them into a Bastrop way and keeping them. She knows we're not going to keep them forever, but it is a way to get good young people in the door, train them in appropriate good habits under awesome leaders, and then put them out on the street. And she's managed the growth. The council gave her 2 new officers. We'll continue to add as our population increases. And she's worked with, we now have a K-9 unit. His name is 5-0, right? 5-0? And our officers actually fought for who was going to be the handler for that. We do utilize our drone more and more, and she has revamped the volunteer program. And she's working on best practices accreditation, which is an important one for a city our size and a police department our size as we continue to grow. And then the last one is the Economic Development Corporation I'll focus on. They are a sort of redheaded stepchild to the city, or at least that's how it has felt. As now the acting interim director of the EDC, I wanted to brag on Angela a little bit in the work that staff does. They completed the sale, transfer, or agreement with 3 major companies whose base salary is $50,000. Accutronics, which is a secure and safety drone company who has military contracts, will be in Bastrop. TA Adhesives, a specialty adhesive company who does all of the things that cars and computer chips need, will also be in Bastrop. And LS Electric, who will be providing items to Samsung, is also locating in Bastrop. We've partnered with Smithville Workforce. We have good reports showing us what our town needs, what jobs pay, and how we can get those folks trained very, very quickly. For those of you who don't know, Smithville Workforce received a grant. We'll train you to be a welder, we'll train you to be a nursing assistant, an electrician, a plumber, a carpenter. We'll train you to be a whole heck of a lot of things at absolutely no cost. You just have to show some willingness. CDL drivers today with endorsements, they can't turn them out fast enough. And we're going through the feasibility study for the regional sports facility on that property. And they have been a pleasure to work with as we continue to include them in all of our city staffing. So, what did that yield us? The Golden Apple was a culture of service. It has developed trust, not just among the residents, but among our partner organizations and the development community and staff themselves. We've cultured that we are stewards of resources. It is very, very difficult for me to ask the residents when I know we can do better, or I know we can tighten our belt, or I know we can be creative about what we need. And it's created a connection and a fabric. Us reaching out to organizations and making those Halloween events, making the Mardi Gras events, making the 4th of July events available where those organizations can raise money also as they help us put a grand event on, has been a game changer for some of those organizations. And reminding them that we're impactful to everyday lives. When we make a decision and change a code and a business can't get a certificate of occupancy, or a resident can't move in, or they can't get their permit for whatever reason, the decisions that we make down at City Hall really have an impact on everyday lives. And so drilling that down to the very, very core of why are we here. And we are public servants, foot washing public servants. And that more than anything, I think they understand under my tenure as city manager. And so where do we go from here? This is just a brief snapshot at a look at 2024, and I'm sorry it's a little bit small. We're hopeful to have an operational wastewater treatment plant. We are running water through it right now. We do have some testing that's going to happen. We will set a visit with the council. Many of you have expressed interest in visiting the plant and going through, so we will do that. We expect to have operational wells. We expect road maintenance to be well underway. We expect our parks inventory and repair to be well underway. The Delgado Park mural should hopefully be completed at some point in 2024. So should the Mayfest Park improvements, and that is partnering with our school and potentially the prison system to help us get some of that needed labor. We are creating a fleet and facilities division. As the council and the residents entrust us with additional fleet and facilities, we need to be able to take care of those things and be good stewards of them. We hope to have a selection of a hotel at the convention center across the street. We will be going through the revision of the development code, including the sign code, which we have a code rodeo January 27th at the convention center from 9 to 3. So if you've not signed up, please do so. We will continue to review staffing and support positions as needed. We'll continue to be fiscally responsible. We will continue to shoot for sustainable employment and a diversified economy. We will continue commercial development growth and increase among the commercial corridors through smart planning and growth. We have seen additional hotel industry expansion and will potentially come back to the voters with a proposed venue tax that would fund said recreation center. We will continue the new residential development process improvements. And for those of you who aren't aware how quick Lennar or KB or any one of those folks put up a home, they're talking about 10 to 15 a week. So they go up very quickly. And so internally as staff, there are process improvements that we can do working with the developer from a big picture perspective so that those permits are almost over the counter. And we're doing good review, but we did the review early on. We will continue diversity and cultural awareness. That's working with our HR department and working closely with the DEI board, giving a report of who was hired, what was the restraint, why didn't we hire, and then working to improve our hiring practices. And then protection of our historical and uniquely Bastrop assets. We will continue to do that through the Historic Landmark Committee, and we will continue to do that through whether that's an overlay, whether that is some other protection of the Main Street area. We'll continue to march toward that. And I put Mardi Gras off to the corner because that is a big thing. This is the first year Mardi Gras will be in Bastrop. And Carlos with Lost Pines Toyota held the inaugural Mardi Gras celebration on Saturday. And if that is any indicator of what is to come, Kathy Danielson and her staff have been working really, really hard with Evangeline Parish in Louisiana. And they have a contingent, I believe she said 30 people the other day. 30 people within the parish. It has made their radio shows. There will be horses. I mean, this is Mardi Gras. This is Mardi Gras in Bastrop, minus the sharing of things. No cash and prizes being shown. And so that is my year in review.
Thank you, Madam City Manager. Council, any questions for our City Manager? Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
So, Madam City Manager, as you shared your resume with us from this last year, I just wanted to say thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't do it without y'all. I can't do it without y'all, and I certainly can't do it without the staff. They're all in the back. They stay late. They come in early. They are a truly dedicated group of individuals that I could not do it without them. So if you guys would please stand up, because you deserve the applause.
Councilmember Crouch.
I was just going to piggyback off of Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland's comment, but thank you very much. I think one of the best things that the council did was hire City Manager Carrillo as the city manager. So that's a feather in our hat, I think. And wow, we did a lot this past year together as a group. So and then for the staff, and I had in my comments for the council members' comments to thank the staff for all the events we had downtown and around town. It was a really, really good holiday season for the city of Bastrop. So thanks to everybody for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Meyer.
Yes, I can't say it enough, Sylvia. Thank you so much. I always tell you, you're the glue that holds this together, and you are. And you hold this tight circus together sometimes too. But I also wanted to emphasize a point that you make and you always make about service. And we, the city, and all of us here are here to serve you. You are our customers. We serve you. So we should always be in that role to you. So thank you also to the city.
Thank you, ma'am. All righty. We will move forward. Before we move to item number 10, I want to alert council and those in attendance that we're pulling item 12E. There seems to be some procedural issues, and we will pull that from our agenda tonight. We'll move to citizen comments. Madam City Secretary, I have 2 so far. Do we have any others?
No, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to call Brett Douglas up to the podium. Please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Brad Douglas at 906 Main Street here in Bastrop, Texas. I want to first start by saying hello to the City Council. Again, my name is Brett Douglas. I am the chairperson of Bastrop Pride. It is a pleasure to speak in front of the council for the very first time. So I apologize if I'm a little nervous or reading directly from my little speech here. I am humbled to be able to speak on the same day of the Martin Luther King Proclamation and just grateful to be here. As the year has just begun, so does continued work of each amazing person on the council, the commissions, and the board who serve the city with distinction. I want to express my sincerest thanks to those responsible for the holiday parade, the planning, the organization. Your efforts really brought life and light to Bastrop County, and it did not go unnoticed. It is clear to me that the public services and works of Bastrop are a reflection of our taxes and our commitment to bettering the community through activities and events which serve our broad and diverse community. Tonight I wish to highlight the specific service to our community that is the Bastrop Public Library. Recently, we of Bastrop Pride held a Success 101 Career and Life Skills Fair at the library that brought in a mix of talented advisors, an account manager from First National Bank, to local mortgage advisors, as well as mental health professionals that spoke with and shared their resources to those that used the library that day. Without a space dedicated to knowledge, growth, and especially self-manifesting educational drive, Bastrop would not be the place that it is today. I want to thank you. I want to give thanks to the staff at the library and for working with our nonprofit to reach into the Bastrop community and provide them with the chance to start the year off in an amazing way. To wrap up, I will once again and will always say my praises for these city services and encourage you to listen and have courage in your library, as it is a welcoming space for collaboration, cooperation, and civility from which each and every person of Bastrop benefits. Bastrop Pride is looking forward to contributing to the 2024 agenda of continued diversity and cultural awareness. I really appreciated that in the presentation. And I just want to thank you all for your time and for listening. I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Shirley Bowe. I appreciate it's very kind, but this is a business meeting, so I realize that you'll have nice things to say, but please, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Shirley Baugh, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to share our thoughts about the current space at Bastrop Recreation. I live at 185 Hassler Shore Drive here in Bastrop. I've been a longtime resident for over 20 years in the county, and have had the pleasure of being a regular yoga teacher for Bastrop Recreation. Besides teaching, I am also a participant in Bastrop Recreation Center activities. The current class space of 1,500 square feet safely accommodates about 20 people for an exercise class. Thanks to the growth of the population in Bastrop, the class enjoys an average in attendance of between 35 and 40 people. Since the pandemic, people are more centered on their health and they want to be healthy. Having 40 people in a space that safely accommodates 20 people creates an unsafe environment for the attendees because they are crammed into too small of a space. This creates high risk for accidents during class, such as tripping, collisions, and increased falls. The cramped space also introduces a higher risk of transmitting airborne diseases, which could increase illness in the very population that we are trying to keep healthy. Bastrop is one of the fastest growing communities in Central Texas. With the departure of the Y, Bastrop Recreation Center has become an invaluable resource to the residents of Bastrop to meet as a community and participate in activities that promote health and well-being. Bastrop needs an expanded space to accommodate for the growth of our community and allow more citizens of Bastrop to exercise safely and enjoy all the other wonderful activities that the Bastrop Rec Center currently provides and plans to provide in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the comments. We will move on to our consent agenda. Madam City Secretary, if you will read the consent agenda, please. There were no other.
Is there anybody else in the audience who wishes to speak? Okay. They're not done. No.
Please, come on. Just state your name and address.
Yes. My name's Marie Blasek, and I live at 400 Oak Street, and I've lived in Bastrop for off and on for 43 years. So I know the community pretty well, and I just have to reiterate and ditto what Shirley just said. The Rec Center program is unbelievably dynamic, efficient. The number of people that come in there and have a wonderful time in a very short period of time and maintain their health and enthusiasm, and these are mostly older people, but not all of them, but they're also people who invest in the community, who do a lot of volunteer work, who have great attitudes, who are staying very healthy, and that facility is just not adequate for what's going on for that a program of that dynamic character. So whatever you can do to find a bigger space for what's going on at the rec center, I just strongly hope that you will work on that for our benefit. And that's all. Thank you very much, and thank you for everything that you do.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Not trying to cut anybody off, but just following the process. Does anybody else want to bring forth any item of interest? All right. Thank y'all so much for your citizen participation, for sure. Thank you, Madam City Manager. We will now move to item number 11, consent agenda. Madam City Secretary, if you will read the consent agenda.
The consent agenda reads as follows. Item 11A, consider action to approve City Council minutes from the December 12th, 2023 regular meeting and December 18th, 2023 special meeting. Item 11B, consider action to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2023-43 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, amending the Bastrop Code of Ordinances, Chapter 11, Taxation, Article 11.02, Sales Tax, to amend Section 11.02.003, Economic Development Sales and Use Tax Levy, and to enact Section 11.02.004, Street Maintenance and Repair Sales and Use Tax Levy, and providing for findings of fact, repealer, severability, codification, effective date, proper notice, and meeting. Item 11C, consider action to approve the final reading of ordinance number 2023-38 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, establishing and adopting transportation impact fees, amending the Bastrop Code of Ordinances, Chapter 13, Article 13.12, by enacting Sections 13.12.094 through 13.12.099, providing for definitions, providing for assessment of said impact fees, providing for the general administration of said impact fees, providing a severability clause, providing an effective date and an open meetings clause, providing adoption, repealer, severability, filing, and enforcement, establishing an effective date. This concludes the consent agenda.
Council City Secretary has laid out our consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember Lee. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Plunkett. Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. We'll move to agenda item 12, 12A, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-01 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, to ratify the emergency procurement from Weisinger Incorporated in the sum of $118,886 as attached as Exhibit A, authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing for a repealing clause and establishing an effective date. Mr. Hancock.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. I'm here tonight to ask y'all to ratify the emergency purchase of the Well I. Well I is one of two wells that serve the west side of the river with water. They are located in Bob Bryant Park. The well did go down on Thanksgiving, so it did cost us a little extra because of that. But if we don't get it fixed right away, we could damage wells on the other side of the river that we supplement water over there. So that's why the decision was made to go ahead and do it, and that's why I'm here tonight to ratify it.
Council, we have any questions for Mr. Hancock? If not, I will entertain a
I
motion.
do have a couple, Mayor.
Oh, go ahead.
Just a couple. So it costs $118,000 to fix it, $118,886.
That's correct.
Right? What would it have cost if it weren't a holiday?
You could have took $32,000 off of that because the price would double. And as you can see, it's $32,000 and $32,000. You would have had one of those. They would have been 16 and 16 instead of 32.
And my second question is, do we have an inventory of our infrastructure to the point where we know what infrastructure is at the point of failing, it's being tracked so that we can adequately plan and budget for failures?
That's a great question. It's really a two-part question. If you're saying, do we have inventory? No, we do not have the ability to store those pumps. They're a sealed unit. So being sealed.
No, not inventory, inventory of all of our infrastructure.
But that's what I'm saying. I wanted to clarify that we don't have the facility to store a pump and motor like that to keep it to where when it does go out. But on the other part, yes, we knew exactly what size pump it was and amperage and all of that. That's how we was able to react so fastly. It is a controlled unit. There's no pulling it. It's 290 foot down in the ground. That well.
But that's not my question.
Are you talking about a condition index?
Track,
Yeah,
yes.
assessment,
That's what I'm
preventative
talking
maintenance
about.
type stuff.
Do we have I do a lot of TMLing.
Yeah.
And so they talk about cities making sure that you have, I'm calling it a spreadsheet.
It's a condition index.
To where we know every single piece of infrastructure, what state it's in, what we're at risk of failure for something like that. So did we know ahead of time that was already in the condition that it was to help us better budget for these type of events and track our infrastructure?
Okay,
And
for
Sylvia's
that
shaking her head
pump and
no.
motor, we knew what size it was. We couldn't determine how long it's going to last. It's a 5 to 10 year, they estimate. The only thing you can do is meg them each year, and everybody knows it's a sealed unit. If a seal breaks, it gets water into it, it's going to fail. It could, and sometimes a pump will meg low, and that gives you time to go ahead and budget. And sometimes they last even 2 or 3 years after they meg low. And now if they meg bad, that means they're burnt, of course.
So to answer your question, Council Member, no, we don't have a condition index. What Curtis has is a list of what we have. But for me to be able to tell you, I know that he went out there October 1st and this was the condition, and I know that he serviced it, and I know that we're going to order this part on X day, we don't have anything like that. That's why there's a new Fleet and Facilities Division happening. They've been working on responses. If it breaks, they're on it. But right, the pre-planning efforts, that hasn't been a focus. And we're getting better as we do like GIS where they plan it and we install something, and now he has a map that he can look at and say, okay, we installed it on this day. But that's still only half of it. The rest of that is, okay, we installed it on this day. When is our annual review of that? He does annual reviews as are required by TCEQ. He's got to do some annual reviews, but it is nowhere near what TML is.
Suggesting.
No. And we're building on that. That one of the ads, and so for Curtis, his division got so big so quickly because of how fast development is coming. We did have to break it apart, and so his focus now is only water, wastewater, and Curtis could have hugged me that day when I told him that. But so we'll have a streets and drainage initiative. There's a park and recreation initiative, but we're still missing that fleet and facilities. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and that's not efficient and it's not economic. So we're going to get there.
Okay, thank you.
I could tell you also that pump was the original pumps were installed in 2010, and it was replaced in 2016. And now in 2023. So
within that life cycle,
it's in that span.
Councilmember Crouch.
Well, you answered one of my questions kind of as far as and Cheryl asked too, how much could we have saved if it wasn't on a holiday? And I'm glad we have a resource that could, and staff that can work through a holiday and do that. So I can't imagine like your water heater going out on Thanksgiving Day and then having to do that. That's kind of the similar thing, and you can't really see your water heater going out until it starts leaking, like you said, and then you know that it's time to start doing something. So I'm glad we had the resources to do it. I'm glad you guys were able to get on it real quickly, and part of the new water wells coming online should take care of some of this stuff, but not all of it, because we can't see what's under the ground from year to year. So,
Well, with the new well system, you'll have redundancy. So if one goes down, we're not going to have to do it over a holiday. We turn that well offline until we get to regular time. So it will be a little bit better that way.
Good, yeah. Good that we've got that built in. So thank you very much for taking care of that over the holiday, and I don't think that hardly anyone in town noticed that it was even out. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Meyer.
Yes, Curtis, I just want to say thank you, because I know you've had a load on your shoulder for a long time, and way more than a lot of people could efficiently handle. So thank you for what you've done, and I know it's going to help a lot with what Sylvia said with the reorganization, but I just want to say we really appreciate your hard work in this.
I concur. Appreciate you, Mr. Hancock, and your crew, so make sure you convey our appreciation to them.
I will, for sure.
No other questions? I appreciate it. Nope.
No. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Meyer, a second by Councilmember Lee. Any further questions or comments? Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Thank you, council. We'll move to item 12B, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-02 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, approving a professional engineering services contract with U.S. Zollers, Inc., the Old Iron Bridge Rehabilitation Project, and to not exceed the amount of $1,129,222.45, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing a repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. I'm sorry. I had Mr. McCaffrey here.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before we start the presentation, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Greg McCaffrey. He is the new Assistant Director of Engineering Capital Project Management. He holds a bachelor's degree of science in civil engineering and also in construction management. He is a licensed professional engineer and a certified floodplain manager with over 35 years of experience. He's been with the city for approximately 4 months. He's been an asset to the city, and we are very happy to have him.
Thank you for the introduction. You're on now, Mr. McCaffrey. Live up to that introduction now. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Again, Greg McCaffrey. I'm the Assistant Director of Engineering and Capital Project Management. I'm happy to share with you a recommendation that staff has to enter into a professional engineering services contract for the Old Iron Bridge project. So just to give a little bit of background, and I know all of you have seen this many times before, but maybe this is more for the public that may not be all familiar with this, but I'm just going to highlight a few slides here. I truly can understand just that this is an iconic structure within the community. I was fortunate enough to attend your 100-year celebration. It just so happened that day of the 100-year celebration, I had received back from TxDOT the original copy of the 1921 design plans. That sort of just went in sync. So that was rather nice for that evening event. But as you all are aware, in 2014, there was a conditional assessment that was done, resulting as far as in the pedestrian closure of this bridge. In 2018, there was a full engineering assessment of the entire structure. You all were presented a couple of presentations as far as on this the condition of the bridge itself, as well as provided a number of options for uses as well as potential rehabilitation for those options. In 2022, the city applied for a RAISE grant. This is basically through TxDOT. It's part of the Transportation Alternative Program. Unfortunately, the city was not successful in achieving as far as obtaining that grant. It's a rather competitive program throughout the state. The overall project and consultant selection, our understanding is the city desires to preserve this structure and use the structure as a modal transportation means and look to potentially having it as a park facility. The desire is to rehabilitate the structure, thereby providing it as far as a pedestrian-friendly use, with the deck serving as a park with various amenities as far as on top of the decking. The city in 2022 had completed a request for qualifications for various design professionals for various disciplines. Further, the city evaluated as far as those that we truly felt had the necessary experience not only for a bridge structure, but also the experience in dealing as far as with a historical bridge structure and the rehabilitation of that project thereof, because there are some rather unique intricacies that relate to historical structures. And we selected as far as, I know I'm going to mispronounce this, I apologize, Mr. Greg Wine, but it's Hewitt Zoller as the consultant for this particular project. The scope of the project, this is very minimal with respect to, you all have a copy of the contract. It's rather lengthy on the scope of work, but the highlights of the items is to update the condition assessment for a pedestrian facility. I know you all have done already a condition assessment that's 5+ years old. The intent with this is to be able to assess it as far as with respects to a pedestrian facility type use. Some of the amenities would be that it would be provided as far as a pathway, a new deck with amenities, safety lighting, railing. Coordination is going to need to be done with TxDOT, the Army Corps of Engineers, and surely the Texas Historical Commission. The bulk of this scope of work is going to entail development of construction plans and specifications, as well as an estimate, as well as coordinating bid letting and contract administration. So emphasize the contract administration. That is basically as far as helping the city make a determination on who the most qualified bidder is, as well as handling the review of shop drawings and as far as minor contract-related items during the course of the construction of the project. It is not contract observation as far as for the actual construction. So I want to make sure that's clear. The project funding and schedule, again, this is for engineering design. It will come from capital outlay, and as noted, the overall contract with their subs is for $1,129,022.45. You have a detailed schedule within your packet, but I wanted to highlight, just for the public, some general items related to the schedule. If you were to approve this professional services contract, the city could look to see final design completed around the spring of 2025. That's probably going to be around April. And a construction start date would be summer of 2025. Again, there's some things that are caveats related to that. Obviously, as far as funding for the construction of that project will be key. And then construction completion would be spring of 2027. So it's roughly a 20-month duration construction. That's an estimate right now. That's just sort of give you a general idea as far as on that schedule. So again, our staff recommendation is that you approve a professional services contract for the rehabilitation of the Old Iron Bridge with Hewitt Hollers to an amount not to exceed $1,129,222.45, and authorize the city manager to execute as far as the necessary documents regarding this contract. I did want to point out this evening we have 3 individuals here with the firm. The first individual I'd like to point out, they're all 3 sitting here to my right. The gentleman to the far left is Greg Wine. He is a principal of the firm. The next gentleman next to him is David Thompson. David is a bridge engineer, and he'll likely be doing a significant amount of the design related to this. And then the project manager, his name is Guillermo. I know I'm going to mess up your last name here, but I even tried to put it down phonetically. Sal C. Dio, right? Okay, very well. I call him Guillermo for short. I've been dealing with him for the last several months, so.
Greg, it's William in English.
Is it?
I don't know that he's told you that.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I'm going to call him Willie if
Right,
he can get that
right.
done by the end of 2024, because 2025, Hewitt Zollers, we've not had this conversation, you and I, but I'm telling you, 2025 is too long. And I hope you're nodding, because I'll tell pause it.
Right. So if you have questions regarding the technical aspects, I also know that Edie, our new finance director, is in the audience in the very back. If you have questions regarding the finance, I've had some conversations with her as well over this on how, are we going to be funding as far as not only this engineering, but when we get to that point, construction. Her and I have had a few conversations. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
This is a YIPI project, and we do have questions. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have questions, a lot of questions. So let me make sure I understand. So the $1,129,000, is that just for the design of the walkway of the bridge or the repairs that have already been defined?
No, so that is a full design to bring that bridge structure to a pedestrian use structure. So we would rehabilitate the necessary parts of the actual structure of the bridge. It would entail a new deck on top of the bridge. It'll entail as far as surface exploration as far as of the abutments. It'll entail as far as recommendation and design as far as the removal of the lead base paint that's on there. It'll entail as far as recommendations on how to rehab the gusset plates. Those are the plates that you all see that have all the little rivets or the little round circles on it. Those actually hold the columns and the steel members together. So it's going to be a complete, detailed, full design.
Councilmember Lee, this is not, and I want to reiterate to the council and the public, this is not the design in the Parks Master Plan.
No, that's not my,
Okay.
thank you, I appreciate that, but that's
Yeah.
that's not where I'm
That's an
going
alt
with my-
ad.
yeah.
It's going to be an alt ad.
Right.
Yeah,
My concern is we're spending $1 million on something that's already been done, and whether or not there's a way to reduce the time spent on reinventing what we've already received. In 2018, actually this goes back further than that, but in 2018, Kimley Horn did a very comprehensive assessment. I found documentations and our resources where they did provide options on how to do the repairs. I went back and I watched the meeting where that was discussed, as well as I read through the packet for that meeting, which was November 27, 2018. So I guess where I'm going is I have to, like we all do, have to cross that bridge to get into Bastrop, and I was here, I drove across that old bridge. I was here when the new bridge was built. The new bridge vibrates. I'm saying it's a new bridge, but it's old at this point too. Just today I was sitting there and cars are flying by in the middle lane and it's vibrating, and it was made very clear in 2018 that the old bridge is near death and falling into the water, at risk of falling into the water, which would then in turn cost us more if that happens. Very detailed photos of where the damage is. We had people diving under the water. There was a lot of time and energy and money spent then, $200,000 I think, to do that assessment. Why are we not able to build off of, I know that time has passed because I believe there was an assessment in 2014 and in 2018 there was already more damage done. So I understand that time has passed and we need to reevaluate. I didn't want the focus though to be on building out the park on the bridge when we can't even get on the bridge and we don't know if it's going to fall.
That's not. So let's start with the 2018 report. So if you go to the grading in 2018, if you go to the report right now and you go to the grading, there were many of those sections of bridge that were scored a B and a C that were not in danger of falling into the roadway, if not in danger of falling into the water. There was a few that were scored a D, and because of that, the whole bridge had to be scored a D. The bridge has to receive the lowest grade, right? And so that's why the bridge got a D. It's not going to fall in tomorrow, but we're 5 years from a last good assessment. There's no engineer who wants to build on somebody else's engineering work.
I get that. My question is, why did we not go back to Kimley? Because they did do the initial, we did pay them the $200,000. They did give us the options. We did allocate $2 million to do the repairs that they recommended, and we're now in 2024, and none of that was done. To your other point, based on what that information was given at that time, there was 50% section loss, 100% section loss. There were some areas that, some of the primary areas that's holding that bridge together is what's degraded. So yes, to your point, he did point out that there were parts of the bridge that weren't in that bad of a shape. But the primary thing, I don't know the technical terms, those primary spaces are degraded at 100%, which are the bulk of what's holding the bridge together. That's why there was concern that it's going to fall, or it has the potential to fall because of that happened in another city or something. But I felt like the presentation that was given back then was very detailed and very specific as to what needed to be done to keep it from collapsing. And my question is, I understand the engineer's not going to build off of that. Why didn't we go back with the Kimley Horn recommendation?
So
You
Kimley
weren't
Horn's
around.
presentation, Kimley Horn's recommendation is double this price.
Is what?
Double this price.
So we did go back to them and the price.
There was an initial discussion with Kimley Horn that I think I've shared with Councilmember Crouch during this conversation, because Councilmember Crouch has been the counting pennies as it relates to the bridge. Why can't we, and I don't want to say cut corners because that's the wrong term, why can't we fix just those immediate pieces if those are still Bs and Cs? The problem is time has passed. They're not Bs and Cs anymore. They're probably Cs and Ds now. I don't recall right offhand the initial Kimley Horn. Kimley Horn was disappointed that we didn't select them. Kimley Horn believes they were quote unquote promised the job. I got an email just today that says that. And the reality of it is, it's not bad to have a second set of eyes. It's obviously not bad to have a less engineering cost. What I would say is bad for Hewlett-Zollars is I don't like the 2025 date.
That's another thing.
Yeah, I don't
We're
like the
now
2025 date. But
well beyond 2014 into now 2024.
I'm not trying to go into 2025, but I'll let them address that.
So there was some.
Let me pull up the Kimley Horn. While you do that, I'll pull up the exact.
Will we be testing the soil and the water as well to determine any damage caused from the lead and the breakage or degradation of the steel?
So as part of the, I guess I wanted to answer the first part of your one question, is you said, why can't we use that assessment and how much of that is involved in that? So you all have a copy of the breakdown of the itemized amount of work. And so a small portion of that $1 million, roughly around $80,000, is to complete a reassessment of what already has been done. And so they're going to take that information, utilize that information, and the intent is to go forward with an actual design, which was not done in any extent back on those, the assessment that was done in 2018 and the follow-up presentation that was given to you in March of the following year. And so the bulk of the work is going to be actual design of a redesign as far as of the structure for the intended use. And to answer the second part of your question, will we be looking at the subsurface portion of the structure itself? Yes, as part of this project, we'll be looking at the abutments that go below this water surface. I fully expect that when we get into more detail with respects to the amount of lead that base paint that is on that structure, when they fully move forward with a recommendation on the design and something like this, my experience in other similar projects is they fully encapsulize as far as the structure itself as they sandblast it because of the potential contamination that can be had as far as from that paint that is scaling and peeling off even as we have it today.
Right. So, City Manager, funding. So there was a bond issued in 2018, if I'm remembering correctly, and council approved $2 million for that. But then I found another bond was issued in the amount of $15 million, and some of that bond money was supposed to go toward the repair as well.
No.
So well, that's what was stated. So that's why I'm asking. The $2 million that was from the 2018 $4 million bond, and then we came back in 2024 and our I don't remember if I was looking in our comprehensive plan today. I think I was looking at our comprehensive plan, and it said budget fiscal year 2024 states a CO bond will be issued in the amount of $15 million with a priority going towards rehabilitation of the old iron bridge.
Correct. So there's $3 million from a prior borrow in the bank for the bridge. That was to be for a match for a grant should we have gotten this grant. So we didn't get the grant. That $3 million is in. Part of that $3 million will pay for this $1 million assessment. The $15 million has not happened yet. And it won't happen. As I told you guys before, I don't want to borrow any more money until we burn what we have. So the timing of that borrow, I will get with Edie, but if we're looking at a 2024 construction start or end of 2024 construction start, that borrow probably won't happen until then. But we incorporated into the budget a no tax increase with the ability to go and borrow $15 million for the bridge. And that put a total of $18 million available for the Old Iron Bridge.
18 million.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I guess, like I said, my main concern is with everything that I researched after the outcome of the 2018 assessment and the dire need to replace what was recommended replaced and the options that were provided. I did not want us to spend another year doing an assessment, and that's another year of degradation on the bridge, another year at risk of the bridge falling apart. I didn't want the focus to be building out the park. I think the focus should be strictly on figuring out what we can do. Okay, let me ask one more question. That $3 million, is that the million that we're spending for this assessment?
Correct.
Part of that $3 million?
Correct.
So that's taking away from monies we have to start repair on the bridge right now, and then we have to issue a bond or try for grants and things of that nature.
So you can't start repair on the bridge right now without the assessment.
Right.
So you can't do that.
But
So
what I'm saying is, we have $3 million that we
Yes.
could use for repairs, but we're spending $1 million of that, a little over $1 million of that,
Sure.
just on this assessment. And what could we have started with the $2 million had we?
you couldn't have, because the
Anything.
assessment was, no, because it was just an assessment. It was not the engineering at all. Kimley Horn did not do any engineering. They did an assessment. And in fact, wanted to charge us quite a bit of money to just come and do a visual assessment. I have the Kimley Horn proposal in front of me from May of this year. Their engineering fees, 1.5 for engineering and $600,000 for construction management and inspection, and 63 for materials testing. So that's 2.15. That is the Kimley Horn proposal.
For the same services.
Yes.
Okay.
Minus the materials, I believe minus the materials testing.
Minus the materials. And then this assessment, we're getting not only the updated assessment, but also
An actual design
Yeah,
to
so
do the work.
I want to really clarify that the bulk of that cost is in design. It is not in assessment. What the intent of the reassessment is to take into account all of these studies and information that had been done, and unfortunately, the city has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars
Right.
on doing assessments.
Right.
This is not that.
Got it.
This is the bulk of this, the majority of the work is actual design. All right, now there's a lot of permitting and coordination that comes with that design, but it is a design, okay, for the rehabilitation of the structure. It is not, let's go look at it again. We've already looked at it enough. We're going to relook at it.
Thank you.
In a minimal sense, and we have to do that as part of the, I want to call it preliminary design of the structure itself. That has to be undertaken, all right? Because that's going to give further guidance to the design engineers on what actually they need to
How to
design
start this.
for, right, in the actual repairs.
Got it. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
So
That eases
that
my
needs to be
mind.
clearly understood. Yeah, I don't want you to walk away. And if you go into the spreadsheet, you'll see there's about $86,000 plus or minus in that early part of the project.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so
And
much.
it's only 44 days of the construction time.
I sent
according
it, it's in your mailbox.
To the
Thank
Gantt
you.
chart. So it's $76,000 just for the assessment. I think that's a minimum portion of that.
Correct.
Of that full
Correct.
expenditure.
And there's a time frame with, you're right, there's a bar chart that gives you an idea of what they anticipate spending on that assessment. And so some of that is going to be the subsurface exploratory work. So, okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Crouch.
I have a lot of questions too, sorry.
No, it's all right.
And I've got it marked up all over this packet, so I'm going to have to bounce around a little bit. One, it's going to be for Hewitt Zollers, and it's the length of time. So you said 22 months, and how long is the total design? Is it going to take to do the design? Is it? I know you've got listed 14 months. Does that 14 months include any of the permitting that's going to be done? Does that get the initial permitting with the Army Corps of Engineers started? And does that have any part of the Historic Landmark Commission piece of it?
So I'm going to say that some of those aspects are going to be done simultaneously, but I'm going to ask Guillermo, all right, Greg? I'll ask Greg to speak a little bit on that.
We're going to call him Willie.
Thank you. I'm Greg Wine with Hewitt Zollers, Mayor, Council. Appreciate the questions. Reference your first question about does that include all the permitting? Yes, sir, it does. I went and looked at the schedule in here. We have nearly 2 months of city review time because we took
You know we're short-staffed and we got a lot on our plate.
Right. So there is 2 months of that time is split up for the city to do reviews. And we may be able to compress those review times. I've already been talking to my guys about compressing some of even the assessment and the load rating so that we can speed up. We've done several projects very similar to this, and that's why we think we can advance the design of this quicker than what versus just starting off fresh. You guys have spent a lot of money, a lot of time. We have all those reports. We've dug into them. We've done similar projects for TxDOT, City of Alvin, and so we're ready to hit the ground running on this one.
Okay. Another question I had was how, and I know you've got a ton of experience because I've been around your firm for a long time, and so I was wanting to see and maybe give you an opportunity to brag a little bit how much experience you have with the Army Corps of Engineers and their permitting process, and also whatever entities you're going to have with working over the Colorado River.
Sure. That's really a softball. I spent 20 plus years with the Corps of Engineers. I was a Corps of Engineer Army officer. I've done a lot of work with the Corps of Engineers. We're actually, down in the Houston area, we're the go-to firm for all Corps of Engineer permits. And I've worked a lot with the Fort Worth District, done a lot of work with Texas Parks and Wildlife and helped them with Corps of Engineer permitting on a lot of their state parks, particularly those that are around lakes. The project down in Alvin, very similar to this one. It wasn't as large of a bridge, but it required removing a lot of the structure. We had to put an abatement mitigation plan in place to prevent the particulates that were being removed from the bridge, the paints, from getting into Mustang Bayou. I know that's going to be a big issue on this one as well. Our project manager, structural engineer, David Thompson, was interviewed and selected, and I want to say it just wasn't statewide, it was a national competition to replace the State Highway 63 bridge over the Sabine River. And David, we submitted. Our firm is probably one of the top bridge firms in the state of Texas. And it's because of Charlie Quaid, who's not here tonight, but he's came down and walked the bridge with Greg about a month ago. But David was interviewed, and it was really a national competition, and our firm was selected by TxDOT for the State Highway 63 bridge, which is very similar in size and scope to what this bridge is. We also have several iconic bridges. If you look at the background on your slides, you can see the Iron Bridge. When you see the iconic bridges up in the Dallas skyline, the ones across the Trinity River, the Calatrava bridges, David and Charlie, our structural engineers, were the structural engineers of record on those bridges. So we have a lot of experience doing that type of work. Do a lot of work with the SHPO, the Texas Historical Commission, State Historical Preservation Officer. Another thing that we bring to the table that I think is going to be important, we have a very good staff of urban designers. We've done a lot of work with the SHPO, creating places where people come to. We designed, maybe some of you know, the Kemah Boardwalk, Moody Gardens. We do a lot of work, honestly, for Disney. Our architects, our urban designers, our landscape architects know how to create a place that people like to come to, hang out, have fun. You talked about the great places you want to create and add to the things that are going on here. That's what we're looking to accomplish on this project.
And I think that's real important, because if we're going to have to spend this amount of money on the bridge, we want to get as much use as we possibly can get out of it, and then have it interjected into the city that everybody can use it. I had a couple other questions too on the pricing, and also
Sure.
the load rating and some of the repairs. So the load rating, I know, is going to be a lot different from for pedestrian use versus traffic use. So, and then that, I think, if you can explain how that's going to help us potentially save some money, because we're not designing it for automobile traffic, we're designing it for pedestrian traffic. So the repairs might not have to be quite as extensive, just for the load of people being on it versus vehicles. Is that?
Yeah, sure. So David Thompson, engineer with Hewitt Zollers. Appreciate the time being here. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. In regards to your question, you're correct. Pedestrian traffic is much lighter than vehicular traffic. So the original design of the structure is, and the vehicle that they designed it for back in the 1920s, it's a little bit outdated per current standards, but that's also why the bridge is not open to vehicular traffic anymore. When you evaluate a bridge for pedestrian loading, it's a little bit different. You're assuming there's a whole bunch of people out there on the structure, right? And that's actually something that we'll get to engage y'all as the owner of the project. You as the owner can have an idea of, is this going to be used for events, right? Is it going to be a space where we host people when we're shooting off fireworks? Or is this really just a hike and bike trail, right? That can kind of define some parameters in regards to how heavy, how many people should we expect to be out there. You can go the conservative route and say we're just going to load it up with people, and that's what we'll design for, right? Or you can say, no, really the purpose is for people to go for their morning jog, right? I'll say in regards to what we've seen on previous trusses is a lot of times they won't rate, is what it's called, load rating. They won't rate for vehicular traffic per current standards, but they will actually rate for pedestrian loading. I have read the reports that Kimley Horn did, and then the previous ones in 2014 as well. They did do some load ratings and indicated there are some members that are going to have to be replaced just for pedestrian loading. So that's something that we do anticipate having to do, even though the load itself is lower. Yep.
You had, let's see, the permitting cost was broken out. So you had, I mean, there was a pretty good chunk of money for the Texas Historical Commission coordination and Army Corps of Engineer permitting. So I'm assuming those are just estimates like they are, but they're pretty high estimates. So do you anticipate using all of that permitting money? Because it's about $55,000 just for permitting, or?
Yeah, and I'll say we have a firm that's joining us on this that has background working with the THC. We've done projects with THC, with the Corps as well. There's an environmental firm, it's ICF, they were formerly Blanton. They actually wrote the guidance for TxDOT on preservation of old historic structures and how to do the coordination with THC. So these are the people you want handling that coordination. In regards to the estimate, no, it is just an estimate. You're right. You're exactly right. It's an estimate of their anticipated efforts to complete that work.
Okay, and I'm hopeful that we're going to get some alternate methods of remediation on some of the stuff that's going to be involved with it. And for one, maybe the lead paint. assessment and the abatement. I know there's different ways and methods, and I think that the original estimate that we got that was very high included the worst-case scenario, maybe tinting the bridge and then doing sandblast and then completely redoing that. And if there's other options that are less expensive available that can do the same thing, I know you can encapsulate the paint versus sandblasting it all up and starting all over. If you can present those alternative methods where we can have some cost savings and provide some value engineering for it that we can look at and then make decisions on, that would be very helpful too. And I think that's one reason we kind of picked you guys for that. So
Yes. If I might just add to that, we've been working with an environmental firm here in Austin, Lone Star Environmental. They've been very responsive. They actually looked at the results of the lead paint surveys and samples that were taken that the city provided us, and they were not, as far as an environmental firm goes, were not alarmed like most would in terms of saying, you know, their hair's on fire and you got a big problem. So I plan on working with them. They've been very good working with us, coming up with cost-effective ways to mitigate, and a lot of times it has to do with asbestos, but lead-based paint is also hazard material that we've had to take care of on a lot of projects, particularly on the Texas parks and on some of the CCC era facilities that are at our state parks. But I'll work with them closely, and we will get those protocols established in the construction documents to make sure that we have an economical way of addressing it, but as well as safeguarding the environment. So.
Okay. As long as we get some VE options that we can look at for maybe a lesser cost. And then one of the other things had to do with the pricing, and you had hazardous materials mitigation, just $4,000. So is that just to get the environmental person involved with it, or is it, that's not a lot of money for that scope?
I went back and forth with them to make sure that they had a clear understanding of what I was going to need on this project. Like I said, I've worked with them probably for 10 plus years. They're very frugal. I gave them an opportunity. I said, are you sure but based upon their review of the lead paint samples that we're taking and what the construction is going to be required, and I told them we're going to be taking all the paint off, and they were convinced that's the number they need to do the scope that we need them to do to establish the protocols and get this job done.
Okay. And then in the contract, the insurance requirements, you're going to have the same insurance requirements for your consultants and people working under you that you have, correct?
Well, I don't know if you saw the limits on Hewitt-Zollars, but ours is usually quite higher than. We do require all of our consultants to have professional liability insurance as well as commercial and general liability. They probably will not be at the limits that Hewitt-Zollars has on because ours are significantly higher than most.
I think that was it. I think that was my questions. And I'm glad that we went out and got a second opinion because I know that the cost came in almost half of what, not to let you know where you were at in the grand scheme of things.
I did not know that till this evening. You know, this is public money, so you can't bid engineering services. And if I'd have known it, I probably wouldn't have submitted ours because they could find my PE license. But these gentlemen, we worked through a level of effort analysis on what the tasks were. We worked closely with staff back and forth to make sure that we had a good scope of service where the city wanted to end up with. I want to mention our motto with Hewitt-Zollars is to listen and then to collaborate and then deliver. And that's what we're here to do, is to deliver this project for y'all. And all three of those will equal shared success, and that's what we're looking to achieve at the end of this project. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for all of the information, and I can't wait to get the design piece of it started so we can get the bridge rebuilt. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem.
Definitely can do her.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
So I have some more questions for the engineers. So today I watched the Kimley Horn assessment presentation they delivered back in 2018, I guess, and Councilperson Lee, I suspect you were responsible for us receiving that, so thank you. My engineering degree is in computer engineering and semiconductor physics, so this is foreign to me. But I learned that our bridge is called a fracture critical bridge, and that the failure of any one of the connection points could cause the entire bridge to fall down onto the ground and into the river, and that's obviously a concern. The gusset plates, which I didn't know what those were called before today, but I can use those big words now. So the gusset plates, according to their assessment, were suffering from 100%, and I don't recall the exact word, was it blooming? But basically the flowering, that's probably, yeah, thank you. Flowering, which is an indication of, failure of that gusset plate. And so I think my question is somewhat of a brief technical one, which is how does one replace a critical junction point where the bridge is in compression and tension simultaneously through those bolts and through that plate of steel if that fails, the whole bridge falls down? Mm-hmm. How do you take it out and put a new one in without the whole bridge falling down?
Right. And I know the Kimley Horn engineer highlighted the importance of this. This was just in the wake of the 35W bridge collapse as well.
Right. For that reason. Yeah.
Right. I'm actually Minnesotan. I used to drive right through downtown Minneapolis every single day on my way to work. And
on I-35?
Not on I-35, on the bridge right next door, thank goodness. So that's something that's very near to me as well, I'll say that. To answer your question, how you do it, well, we have the benefit of there's no load on the bridge in regards to vehiculars or pedestrians right now, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing that we can do is relieve some of the load that's on there as well by taking the deck off before we actually perform our work. The last part of it is it's actually sandwiched. If you look at the members that run along the bridge, there's two gusset plates. There's one on either side that sandwiches it together and they bolt it through. So when you do the repair, you actually have the opportunity. You're not taking them all off at one time, right? You're picking and choosing here and there type of thing. And so it becomes a sequence of construction for how they can do that and safely do that.
Okay, thank you. I mean, that's good enough.
Yeah.
So my second and really my last question is, you've heard that we have on the order of $18 million set aside for this overall project, and we've got 1.1 million of that 18 being used for the engineering work that you guys are going to do. My question is something in the ballpark of what's the likelihood that we can complete this in $18 million?
So our baseline has been the application that y'all had for your grant and also some of the estimates that Kimley Horn put together, right? That's kind of the best that we have based on the information that we know to date. And we looked at that and then looked at basically, hey, was their estimate fair? Was it in the right ballpark? That type of thing. And then projected out looking at inflation over the past couple of years. Let's update those numbers to realistic today numbers, right? And I want to say we landed in the realm of it was somewhere around $20 million. And so it's in the ballpark, I'll say that, which is a good starting point. There is a lot of work to be done to make sure that those numbers are fair and accurate, right? What is the actual extent of repair that needs to be done? Are there opportunities for value engineering on how you redo the paint system, which is a large ticket item on the probable costs there. So y'all are in the right ballpark, I'll say. And then the last part is just kind of a discussion of, right now there's the understanding that there's going to be certain, I'll say, architectural enhancements or amenities added to the facility as well, right? There's a cost associated with those. So it becomes a question of, do we have to pick and choose what we can do to still fit within the budget that you have?
Okay. Thank you.
And we can help you with sharpening the pencils as much as we possibly can too, so. Okay, council, staff has laid this out. We've had our questions answered by staff as well as by the team from Hewitt Zollers. If there are no other questions, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
I have a motion from Councilmember
Second.
Meyer. I have a second from Councilmember Pluckett. Any further discussion? Seeing none indicated, Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Big step. Thank you, Mr. McCaffrey.
Thank you very much.
We'll move to item 12C. Consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-03 to City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, confirming the appointment of the mayor of Michael Kidu to place 3 of the Cultural Arts Commission as required in section 3.08 of the city's charter and establish an effective date. Council, this is one of the 2 openings we currently have on the Cultural Arts Commission, and I respectfully request your confirmation of this appointee.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Plunkett, a second from Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. I appreciate that. Item 12D, consider action to approve resolution number R-2024-04 of the City Council of Bastrop, Texas, confirming the appointment by the mayor of Yvonne Keyrus to place 5 of the Cultural Arts Commissioners required in section 3.08 of the city's charter and establish an effective date. Again, council, one of the 2 openings that are there, and I respectfully ask for your confirmation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland, a second from Councilmember Myers. Seeing no further discussion, Madam City Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee, Councilmember Crouch.
Yes.
Once again, council, thank you. We will be going back into executive session on 2 different items. I will reread those. City Council shall convene a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551.071 and 551.072, to seek the advice of legal counsel and discuss professional engineering and contract matters, KSA Engineering, Inc., and potential acquisition of real estate related to wastewater treatment plant number 3 and other matters. And item 2G, City Council convening a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding Chapter 8 of the Bastrop Building Block Code as applied to off-premises billboard signs. It is 8:40. We are in executive session. Well, I like that positive attitude.
Get ready.
It is 9:33. Council is out of executive session. There will be no action taken on what was discussed in executive session. We will move to item number,
Motion to adjourn.
that item. We have a motion to
Second.
adjourn. We have a second. We stand adjourned.
Good job, Cheryl.
Y'all didn't want me to look it up, did y'all?
You want to go to this? This came to me kind of